Political chaos, the leader of the Blue and White Party, Benny Gantz, making statements in Tel Aviv. Let's listen.
Where does a person live? In the north or in the south, in Judea, in Samaria, or in Tel Aviv? The state has to supply him with basic services and the right infrastructure. Most of us agree that the Saturday, the Shabbat, has to be the national day off, and it has a special significance in Israel, but also that we shouldn't prevent anybody from living according to his own way of life. Most of us agree that we have to invest more in education, in health, and in public health, and a little bit less in political finances. Most of us agree that we have to strengthen the governance all over the country, and especially in the Negev, in the Galil, south and north, while coping with crime and violence and illegal weapons in the Arab sector. Okay, please applaud for another 2 seconds until I get a sip of water. Most of us agree that we have to give the education of infants to the Ministry of Education. And all of us, without exception, we all want a safe country, a strong and united country in face of our enemies surrounding us. In my office and in my home, I have a picture of a half glass of wine which was taken close to my mother's bed when she was recovering from open heart surgery. This photo reminded her when she was a young girl in the concentration camp, she always wanted to see the half full glass. I was educated according to this perception, and during my 38 years of service in the IDF, that's how I behaved, that's how I raise my children, that's what I believe. A year ago, I entered the politics because I realized that instead of just looking at the full half glass, in those 80% that most of us can agree upon, we are stuck in the 20% that we can dispute. This is what we have to change. We have to connect and to consolidate the Israeli society. To the loss of solidarity is a reflection in our economic and social life. Although the data looks great, it's good to live in the state of Israel. We got used to some sort of a division that half of the people say how good it is to live here and the other side keeps saying how bad it is to live here. I don't agree with this. I think that on the left and on the right we have to admit that it's very good here and all of us want to live and stay here because this is the truth. But all of us have to agree. But all of us have to agree that there's also things that we have to improve, that the opportunities that this country gives us do not divide equally among everybody. We cannot ignore the great deficit we've reached because of irresponsible policy and another deficit that we are going to pay 20 billion shekel in the next few years. We cannot accept a reality that also in 2019 the fate of a child depends on the place where he was born. The fact that not every child in Israel has an opportunity to succeed jeopardizes our society and our capability to develop and to produce. The productivity today is 24% less than the OECD countries. This is a data that hasn't changed significantly in the last decade. Just a week ago, there was the PISA report that said that Israel has gaps in the education. Israel leads in the gaps in education. In the last 3 years, we are in a trend of decline. The students in Israel who were the best became the weakest in science rather than in Turkey or in Belarus. In other things, we are under Malta and Croatia, and we're not far from Malaysia. Another report, which was published by the Ministry of Health a week ago, showed that in the north and in the south, to the ER are more people arriving because they don't have available health care. So it's true, it's very good to live in the state of Israel, and we should. But it's not going to work forever. These numbers, these data that I just mentioned, show that we're not just talking about policy, but this is a deeper problem. We're talking about knowing in the Jewish foundation of mutual responsibility. We found today, unfortunately, a leadership that talks about controversy, that wants to create a rift among the various tribes in the Israeli society. I realized that Netanyahu said this morning that the most important thing in our foreign policy is to understand the public opinion. But I say that the feeling of the public at home, inside, is no less important to the strength and resilience of the State of Israel. According to the data of the Israel Institute of Democracy, in 2003, more than 50% of the Israelis gave faith in the Knesset. Today, only 27% do. 45% had faith in the government. Today, less than a third are doing it. The Israeli public opinion about the establishment, yes, also about the courts, bothers me much more than the public opinion in the United States. And this public opinion, yes, it's important, it's ours. This public opinion derives from the fact that extremists attack other extremists, and they are the ones who determine the public climate. Unfortunately, leaders on both sides do not speak in a loud and clear voice. We need one voice, especially in our statehood of today. Led by Netanyahu, legitimate positions of criticism, let's say, of the court or enforcement of law, we do have what to improve, of course, become attacks on good and honest people who do their jobs, and the right to protest or to demonstrate is also criticized. When it comes from the right, it becomes incitement. And when it is heard on the left, very easily it is defined in other words. But I want to ask you, friends, all of us, don't deal only with Netanyahu yes or Netanyahu no, but really to see what is at hand here. We are witnessing the death of speaking to the point. Too many people determine their position according to the camp that they were told that they belong to. The world is divided into good, the bad, and in favor and against, and the truth is that the world is more complex than that. Ze'ev Jabotinsky wrote about it, and he said, and I quote, "Only cowards is worshipping a god, a goddess. The supreme person is the one who doesn't have on his forehead no signia." And this is the way I'd like to conduct myself. I want to look at every issue with honest eyes, with ideology, with values, but without any models and prejudices. Just a few months ago, I visited the Jordan Valley together with the head of the council and other people from Blue and White who were with me. We met many farmers. We were walking around and we met Yair Ozelau, a farmer who grows pineapple. And I want to tell you, the best pineapple I've ever eaten in my life. And he grows it in a place that a pineapple cannot grow, actually. And he told me that the government is drying, dehydrating the agriculture, and I was told that the plans to develop the valley are stuck and the people endanger themselves on the roads. We feel deserted. That's what they're saying. That's what they told me. Netanyahu keeps talking about the valley, but he forgot he should do something about it. Without just talking about annexation and all sorts of things, we should deal with development. We're not just going to talk about it, we'll do it in infrastructure, in roads, and in agriculture. And we already decided that the Jordan Valley is the eastern wall of defense of Israel and will remain so forever and ever. This issue has to do with security and strategy. It's not just for election campaign. And the same thing I can tell you about the defense alliance with the United States. Netanyahu knows that we always were against such an alliance, which might burden the freedom of activity in Israel. And it's not in vain that this issue never came up in the last few years, even if there were good opportunities. I see with great severity the attempt to drag strategic security issues into an election campaign. It shouldn't be done, it's wrong, and we're not going to allow it to happen. And I'm telling you that Blue and White, under me, will support any security process which is right and correct, anytime and from any position. We're going to support in returning the deterrence in the Gaza Strip, which unfortunately was eroded in the hands of this government that didn't do enough after Protective Edge when it had 3.5 years of quiet. I understand completely the protest of the inhabitants and the mayors, and we'll do everything possible, and we go there a lot. We'll try to help them even in this political turmoil. Friends, in the last 3 days we still have, I hope that we'll still prevent superfluous elections, not with spins, but we'll do everything possible in order to prevent the elections. It's going to bring us back to the same spot. We have to prevent the elections out of responsibility, and I shall do everything possible in the values that are leading me and without giving up any principles in order to prevent such elections. I consult with many partners and my close people in Blue and White, and I make the decisions, I make them, and I suggest not to roll them on anybody else. I see recently many people who think that we can forgive corruption because of political opportunities. The support in a political day caused some people to be blind because they want to handle with kid gloves the Prime Minister, and we cannot agree to that. It was never right, and it's not right in these very days. Part of the perception of the partnership among the political camps in Israel should be that the opposition to any corruption does not belong to one side, because confronting a leadership that does the wrong thing cannot derive out of a political position. We want a clean political government. It has to be part of the joint efforts of all of us. There aren't 50 million or 50 million, and don't even listen to these spins. There's no such thing, 50 million. I don't have any feeling of, I don't have anything against Netanyahu. I worked with him as chief of staff. We looked at one another eye to eye. We knew how to make very difficult decisions for the security of the state of Israel. I want to remind Netanyahu that in spite of his privileges, and there are many, but Israel before was also very strong inside and out, and it will continue to be strong even after he ends his term of office. I take reservation from a leader who keeps praising himself and belittles anybody who was before him or anybody who comes after him, because leadership has to know how to respect the ones who were before and also to rely on those who will come after. Friends, it's not Netanyahu before all, Israel is before all. Yitzhak Rabin and Levi Eshkol